Okay, so I finally got around to watching Twinless, and that was a ride. This movie is all over the place, but in like the best way. It's dark, it's funny, it's sad, it's weird, it's heartwarming and uncomfortable. And to be honest, I have no idea how it pulls all that off. Most movies that try to juggle too many tones don't tend to stick the landing, in my opinion, but this one does, and I don't understand how it works. Theories down below, please. Twinless is a story of Roman, played excellently by Dylan O'Brien, who loses his twin in an accident and starts attending a support group for twins who have lost their twins. In the support group, he meets Dennis, played by James Sweeney, who also wrote and directed this movie, and they immediately form a bond and become best friends. Unfortunately, I knew more about this movie going into it than I wish I did. Even as it was, I was still thrown for a loop. So I can only imagine what it would have been like had I gone in blinder. I think it would have been a blast. Sadly, I think this is probably the case for a lot of people after the whole leak debacle. So if you're one of the lucky few people who don't know anything about this movie, I highly recommend trying to watch it before you find out anything else because I really wish I had been able to. James Sweeney, Dylan O'Brien, and Lauren Graham are all absolutely phenomenal in this. I had never actually heard of James Sweeney before this, but he is obviously a very talented guy. He gave a great performance on top of also writing and directing the movie. I'm a little afraid of him as a person because I just don't understand how someone's brain could possibly come up with this. But I'm also really looking forward to whatever he does next because he's really good and this was such an original idea. And I just hope he keeps on coming up with more crazy stuff like this because I'd love to watch it. I have been a big fan of Dylan O'Brien's for forever. I was a huge Teen Wolf fan when I was younger, and I'm super excited that he started taking on more roles again. And I just think that he is a ridiculously good actor. This is such a complicated role because it's quite funny in a dry, dark kind of way, but at its center, it's really about grief and regret, and Dylan portrayed that so authentically. There was one scene in particular that was just absolutely gut wrenching, and it was written beautifully by James Sweeney, but it was just delivered so well by Dylan O'Brien, and I was blown away. It was heartbreaking. Lauren Graham also did a great job portraying the grieving mother. I grew up watching Gilmore Girls with my mom and my sister, and other than that, I haven't really seen her in much else. So this was definitely a different side of her for me. She wasn't in the movie much, but for the time that she was in it, she was very raw and real, and it's really nice to see an actor in a different light. I love the way this movie looks. It's not overly stylized, but it does have some really interesting shots, and overall just looks really pretty. And I'm a sucker for a pretty movie. I think it has a nice balance. It has some neat tricks, but not to the point of distraction. The story and the performances are still very much leading the show here, and I think it just came together really well. I don't think there's much more I can say without getting into spoiler territory, so from this point on, spoiler warning is in effect. Please, if you haven't seen it and you have any interest, go watch it before you finish the video. The less you know, the better. You will thank me. So I had a prediction going in that turned out to be right, and I wouldn't have had this prediction had I known less about the movie. So that was kind of disappointing that it was spoiled for me. I had guessed that Dennis wasn't actually going to be a twin, and I had also guessed that he was going to have known Roman's twin brother Rocky before he had died. And I was right about both of those. What I was wrong about, however, is that I had thought this was going to be some like big surprise twist, but you actually find out about it about 20 minutes into the movie. It is still a twist in the sense that you're not supposed to know about it, but I thought it was going to be revealed at the end, and it was basically the whole plot of the movie. So that was kind of a surprise. Dennis is batshit insane, and I don't quite know what to do with that. He's kind of a difficult protagonist. Turns out that Dennis and Rocky had actually spent a night together, after which Dennis basically thought that they were soulmates, but Rocky ghosts him, and Dennis just won't take a hint. In his defense, their time together was very sweet. Rocky was telling him about Roman, and they were just being super open and vulnerable with each other. Watching it, I thought it was super cute. I thought that they were going to be something, so I can understand Dennis's reluctance to take the hint, but it's just everything that he does after that's like, eh. After Rocky's death, Dennis seeks out Roman and he ends up following him to his support group, where obviously the lie about him having a dead twin is born. Presumably, he does this to try and use Roman to replace the relationship that he felt like he should have had with Rocky, but Roman is straight and they end up becoming really good, genuine friends. And this is one of the things about the movie that is just so weird, but also works really well, is that their friendship is so sweet, and it really shouldn't be, because it has this dark underbelly to it that we know about, but Roman doesn't. And even though Dennis is technically the bad guy, you almost don't want Roman to find out about it, because this relationship is actually good for him and helping him to heal. So even though Dennis doesn't deserve Roman, Roman deserves Dennis, if that makes sense. Roman does eventually find out the truth in the worst way possible. Dennis finally comes clean after sucking on his sweaty post workout toe, which is like the worst case scenario. Watching this scene unfold put my nervous system through the ringer like you wouldn't believe. It was telegraphed. I could tell what was going to happen a mile out, and I was watching it unfold in slow motion, completely powerless to stop it. And what's even crazier is that James Sweeney wrote this for himself. He's not just an actor showing up to work like, oh great, I have to suck on a toe today. No, he was like, I want to suck on a toe today. And I'm not sure if I admire him for that or if I'm even more afraid of him. But either way, Roman is obviously very upset by this, more so the lies than the toe sucking. I was more upset by the toe sucking, but honestly, he handled that better than I think could be expected of anyone. And naturally, they stop being friends. This movie, however, does have one of the best endings I think I've seen in a while. I absolutely loved it. After spending some time apart, Roman asks Dennis to meet with him, and they sit down and have their first completely honest conversation. There are multiple times throughout the movie where they'll both be asked a question and they'll have different answers. So, for example, one time they're checking out at the grocery store and the cashier asks them if they're together or separate. And Dennis says together at the same time as Roman answers separate. At the very end of the movie, they're sitting in the restaurant and a waitress comes up and asks them if they need anything. And they both answer at the same time, asking for a box to go, showing that now that this huge lie has been removed from their relationship, they're finally on the same page. Dennis doesn't deserve forgiveness. He doesn't deserve to be in Roman's life. But at the end of the day, they're the only people who really understand each other and who can help each other be the best versions of themselves. There's a scene at the very beginning of the movie where Roman is at his brother's funeral, and all these people keep on coming up to him trying to offer condolences, but none of them are saying the right thing. And then someone comes up and doesn't say anything, but just gives him a hug. And at first, he's just standing there awkwardly because he doesn't know this person. But then he hugs back, and you see him kind of melt into it and just allow himself to be held. Someone was finally giving him what he needed. And it turns out that this person was actually Dennis in a disguise. And although the hug was technically for himself, he was also the only person to give Roman what he needed in that moment. And it's that way throughout the whole movie. Dennis's reasons for wanting to be around Roman are completely selfish, but he's also being exactly what Roman needs. And so in the end, Roman presumably forgives Dennis, not because Dennis deserves it, but because Roman deserves to have that friend, and they can help each other be better. So that is Twinless. I was really surprised by the vibe that this was able to pull off. It made me feel a lot of different things. I was expecting it to be funny, but I was not expecting it to be that deep, and I really, really liked it. I would love to chat with you guys down in the comments about how you felt about it, so I hope to see you there. Please give this video a like and consider subscribing if you love movies as much as I do. Also, my heated rivalry video is about to hit 1,000 views, so I'm going to put it right here. Please go check it out if you haven't seen it already, and I will see you all next time.